Cambridgeshire.
With everything you need to start your day.
BBC Radio Cambridgeshire.
Now, a woman from Peterborough has gone from Indiana Jones to the Dead Poets Society. I love this. I love a story of a big career change. I think because I see it as a very brave thing to do. Jo Young used to be an Egyptologist. She's now an English teacher at Jack Hunt Academy. Jo, good morning.
Good morning.
Wow, so an Egyptologist. Is it just like being Harrison Ford?
I wish it were.
Tell us a bit about your first career. Did it involve lots of travelling around?
A fair amount, but my specialism was in language and text. So actually I spent more time in the UK and less time in Egypt, sadly.
OK. And did you do much digging? Or
I didn't actually, because obviously the texts, most of them are already discovered. Most of it was actually library-based work, but I'm one of those geeky people who loves being in a library, so that didn't make me sad.
Ah, so actually going from a career in academia to being a teacher, maybe it's not as big a shift as it looks like from the outside.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite as big as perhaps you might imagine. I mean, certainly I was no Indiana Jones. So, it was there's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of differences.
What made you decide to go into school teaching?
Well, I think I always enjoyed teaching. I mean, as an academic, I did a fair amount of teaching, and I always really loved it. I found it really energising. And during the pandemic, it made me really reevaluate what I wanted out of life and what kind of difference I felt I was making, which is a bit of a cliche, but it was true. And I looked at the Get Into Teaching website and I thought, it doesn't really resonate with me. But then I Googled career change into teaching, and I found Now Teach, who are the people who got me into teaching. And I just felt like I clicked from the first moment I started looking at their website. I thought, yep, that's how I want to do this.
I completely get that as an academic, you would have been doing a certain amount of teaching alongside your research. Teaching university students, presumably quite different from teaching in a secondary school.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a big age difference. There's a difference in terms of the specialism of university versus the kind of broad curriculum of a secondary school. But they're both brilliant. They're both fantastically good fun in totally different ways.
So what kind of retraining did you have to do? Did you have to go back to uni yourself? How does it work?
There's lots of different routes. I mean, the one that I chose with lots of really great advice from Now Teach was to go into a schools direct, so a SKIT, which is training in a school whilst also having some specific training on the side.
So what did you just call it? A SKIT?
Yes, SCITT.
Ah, OK.
So school-centred initial teacher training.
Right, got you. I was hearing SKIT and thought a third career in sort of comedy sketches was coming out.
I don't think I'm funny enough for that, sadly. So I liked that route. There is obviously the traditional route is to do a PGCE at university and then do placements in school. But mine was sort of flipped the other way around. It was more time in school and less sort of actual dedicated time to the learning side for me. But I liked the hands-on experience of that. I found that very exciting. You know, it's a little bit daunting at first. You're thrown into it and, all right, here's a class, off you go, teach them. I'll do my best. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing here. But I was incredibly lucky. I had such supportive colleagues. I still have incredibly supportive and wise colleagues. And honestly, I feel like getting on with it is probably the best way to learn how to do it.
So the colleagues are great. What about the kids?
Oh, they are fantastic. They are absolutely fantastic. They make me laugh every single day, and that's not me exaggerating. They are hilarious. They're so brave. They're so willing to take a risk in their thinking. They're willing to ask questions that I think some adults wouldn't ask and wouldn't be willing to engage with. They genuinely have that like bit of wonder about them, about the world, that they think, oh, I wonder about this, and that they want to know. They mean topics that adults wouldn't want to talk about or wouldn't be willing to engage in. They eat it up, and it's fun. It's really, really good fun.
Did it feel like a scary thing to do? Change? Yeah, go on.
Of course it did. Yeah, I mean, any change is scary. That's something that I know for myself. That's something I see in the students that I teach, that change can be intimidating at first. But I knew that actually I've had fairly large numbers of changes in my life, and I thought, well, I've always managed all of those ones, so why should this one be any different? Change is just what you make of it. And as I say, I had incredibly good support. I had Now Teach on my side from day one. There were, an ear to listen whenever I wanted to have a whinge, or people to go to for really specialist advice. One of the things I loved was that the advisor I had was a teacher herself before she went to work for Now Teach, so she really knew it at the coalface. And then, just talking to colleagues, I still do it every single day. I bore my colleagues senseless with questions and suggestions and could I do this? And I'm sure they're rolling their eyes at me internally, but everyone helps everyone else because we're all in it together. So I think that change seems more scary before you actually take the plunge. And on day one, probably it is a bit nerve-wracking. I can remember sitting there thinking, wow, okay, there's a lot of acronyms that I have no idea what they mean. There's a lot of chat about, of course, do it like this. And I'm thinking, I don't know what that is. But very, very quickly, you get to the point where you feel reasonably confident and you feel like, actually, I've got a decent stab of doing a decent job of this.
Jo, it's been so nice to talk to you. Thank you very much for sparing time before classes.
No problem at all.
Jo Young there, an Egyptologist turned English teacher from Peterborough. If Now Teach sounds interesting to you, we'll be hearing from Katie Waldegrave, who co-founded this charity, a little bit later on in the show. And just before we go to the news at 8 o'clock, I wanted to bring you the latest.